This is the Speak USA podcast. I'm your host, Cliff Zentgraf. Let's learn about our democracy and how to make it stronger. I want to welcome Holly Taylor to the podcast. Holly, I am so glad you're here. We had a lot to talk about ahead of our session, didn't we?
We sure did, and I'm super excited to be here, Cliff.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Holly, and then I'll let Holly tell you more about Holly. She, until very recently, was the Director of Public Integrity and the Complex Crimes Division in the Travis County District Attorney's Office. Did I get that right?
You did, yeah.
Excellent. And you are also a candidate for Place 9 on the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals.
Yep.
And we're going to unpack that because that was a lot. Tell us about the job that you were recently in, and then tell us a little bit about the position that you're running for in the Court of Criminal Appeals.
Happy to do that. So I was the director of the Public Integrity and Complex Crimes Division at the Travis County District Attorney's Office. In that position, I was in a supervisory role over several units within the office, including our Public Integrity Unit. And that is a division that looks into crime and fraud involving government. So that might be someone trying to defraud the government or someone in the government not following the rules. So I had actually worked with that division in the past. In fact, I was on the trial team that tried former Congressman Tom DeLay for money laundering in the past. But we had some high-profile cases, but most of the cases were folks.
I remember that case.
Yeah. And we had most of the cases, though, that the unit handled were people who were attempting to defraud the government out of money. But also, my division included our white-collar crimes division, which is frankly, a lot of elder fraud cases and fraud on small businesses that we were prosecuting. Also insurance fraud of various kinds. And I had our appeals and post-conviction team under my supervision. And that basically includes everything that the office works on. And that's not just criminal cases, but also they have a civil division that handles some family law stuff. So that's a lot of work. And then also we had our ethical disclosures team in that division. So this is the part of the office that makes sure that the right information is being disclosed.
I remember my mom calling me. This will be a story a lot of people are familiar with. My mom called me and said, oh my goodness, I just got a call from somebody who said that one of our children is in jail and is waiting to get bailed out, and I need X $100 from you right now.
Oh wow!
To get your child out of jail, and she knew better, but you can't help but worry, right?
Yeah. So scammers are a big problem today.
Yeah.
We've even had people within our own family who were scammed. It can happen to anyone. They have very sophisticated methods these days using AI and other tools. But those are some of the divisions that I was in a supervisory role over. I also continued to work with our Conviction Integrity Unit, and I think we might talk more about that later.
Yeah, indeed.
You also asked about the court I'm running for, and it is called the Court of Criminal Appeals. One thing a lot of folks don't know is that here in Texas, we actually have 2 Supreme Courts. We're one of only 2 states in the nation that have 2 Supreme Courts. And what we call the Texas Supreme Court actually only handles civil appeals, things like lawsuits, contract disputes. The Court of Criminal Appeals is our Supreme Court in Texas for criminal cases. So it's at the top of the criminal justice system here in Texas.
So there's a whole other side to your life, and we talked a little bit. I won't move the camera, but it turns out there's a little drum set right over here.
Yes, I see it.
So we kind of talked about your family a little bit. Tell us some other things you've done outside your professional life.
Sure. Well, one of the things is that my husband and I, we both went to college together at Rice, which we talked about, but we actually got to know each other when we were both in a band, or a new wave band together.
Wait, you're in a band?
Yes.
What did you play? What did you play?
So I was the lead singer.
Vocalist. Okay.
Yes, but I played some bass badly, I will tell you. I was not the best bassist in the world. It was okay. And my husband was the drummer. So that is one of the drum connections. And then what we discussed earlier is that one of my kids is a percussionist as well. Although that's not her career path, but she loves to play percussive instruments, including drums, but also the marimba.
Yeah, that's something we have in common because I have a child who's very much likes the drums as well. In fact, it is profession. So.
And you know that you are a tolerant parent when you have a kid learning to play the drums in your house, and you let it happen.
Well, I can't throw stones in glass houses because I might have been playing them too. So I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all. You have a core value that your campaign is based on. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Sure. I primarily in my career have been a prosecutor. So I have worked for the Court of Criminal Appeals as well, the court I'm running for, but I've spent most of my career, over 17 years, as a prosecutor in Travis County, doing all kinds of work. But one of the primary things that I did was, honestly, prosecuting violent crime and working to keep my community safe, including things like murder, sexual assault, child abuse, very serious crimes, and standing up for victims. And I felt good about that work. In the last 5 years, I also began working with the Conviction Integrity Unit in Travis County. And that's housed within the district attorney's office, but they investigate wrongful convictions within Travis County. And typically those claims are brought to the office by entities like the Innocence Project, organizations like that you may have heard of, will bring a case to the unit and say, look into this, please. We believe this person may be innocent. And then the Conviction Integrity Unit would do an investigation. So I worked with that unit on those investigations. That involves things like sometimes doing DNA testing, scientific review, reviewing all of the evidence and records from the trial, interviewing witnesses who testified at trial, sometimes finding those witnesses who were never called to testify at trial. And I will tell you, going into that work, as a person who had been a prosecutor for many years, I doubted whether we would find any convictions from our county that lacked integrity, because I felt like we'd been working so hard to do the right thing and to ensure that justice was done. But I'll tell you, Cliff, I was wrong. And I learned that through that work with the Conviction Integrity Unit. I learned that not only did we have several convictions within our county where the people who were convicted were actually innocent, but also that a few of those were cases that I had originally worked on as an appellate prosecutor. In other words, believing that this was a case that had integrity, that this person was dangerous. I'd worked very hard to put people in prison, and later discovered through the work with the Conviction Integrity Unit that they were actually innocent. And it was heartbreaking.
Earlier when you were talking about prosecuting those crimes, and it made me stop to think about what would it be like to have to think about those sorts of crimes all day long. But I didn't jump in, and I'm glad I didn't, because now I could think about both sides of that, right? I mean, it must require a lot of emotional stability, I guess would be a good way to put it. Not only to prosecute them, but then to be able to look at them objectively after later, years later, and say, that maybe that wasn't right.
It's hard. It is. And I think it's difficult for a lot of people to do this work at all, because the cases are disturbing and violent in a lot of cases. It's really hard to be objective in that work once you see the terrible things that have happened. And everybody I know that does it because they believe they're doing the right thing, and they're working to keep their community safe and to stand up for victims. So once you are in that mental space, to then be faced with evidence that challenges your assumptions about your own work. And, in my case, it was just overwhelming in these cases. I couldn't look away. I had to accept that we made a mistake. And that was tough. It was tough. And one of the things we talked about is that I did run for this court before in 2024. And when I did, I had trouble talking about this, which was my true motivation for running in the first place. I felt shame, and I couldn't really talk about it head on. But what I've come to realize through this journey is that we have to be honest, and we have to have integrity. There's so much misinformation and lies out there that, from my place, I don't want to be a part of that if I can help it. I'm going to do everything I can to let people know where I'm coming from, and this is where I'm coming from. In this work, I saw that there are cracks in the foundation of our criminal justice system. It's a good system, but we need to work to repair it, to ensure that it works for all of us, and that it is truly doing justice and treating everyone with dignity and humanity.
Yeah, indeed. And I think one theme of our conversation today is going to be a basis on evidence and on facts and what's going on in life and in politics in general. We've crossed a line in our country where two people who have different policy prescriptions could at least look at an underlying foundation of things they believe in and places they weren't willing to go. And that seems to have disappeared. It seems people, it used to be that people who would do that would eventually be chased out of office, or maybe they'd be convicted of something, something they shouldn't have been doing. And we seem to be in a place right now where just taking the next step and the next step and the next step down that path is yielding reward. And it's shocking to me. I don't understand how people can watch this and accept it.
We are in unprecedented times. I'll agree with that. And it's very disturbing to me. One of the things that I've kind of begun to see as I've been out there on the campaign trail, I myself have received a death threat. I also see that a lot of the judges who are standing up for the rule of law, sometimes these decisions are unpopular. And whereas in the world we lived in 10, 20 years ago, they might have received some public criticism and perhaps a challenger at the ballot box. But nowadays, they receive frequently death threats. And some judges have been harmed. Their families have been harmed. Their houses have been burned. This is a different level of discourse, if you can even call it that.
Well, it's not discourse, and I would argue that tone's being set from the top, and that's deeply unfortunate. And it's much of my motivation for saying, hey, I don't care who likes what I'm saying or not saying or whatever. We've got to stand up.
Well, I certainly agree that we definitely, when our courts are under attack for doing their jobs and standing up for the rule of law, we need to have their backs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, court of one kind of technical point here, getting away from the deep conversation. Court of Criminal Appeals, place 9. Mm-hmm. So that means you're representing some area of Texas, right? I know the answer to that.
Yes.
It is.
A lot of people think that, but actually, and they frequently ask me, what does that district consist of? Well, it consists of the entire state, 254 counties. All of the 9 places on this 9-member court are statewide. So it's an at-large vote of everyone in the state, just like the Texas Supreme Court is. And now the 15th Court of Appeals as well. So we have 3 statewide courts, and people are going to have a lot of those judges on their ballots in 2026 to choose from.
Yeah, you were telling me what the ballot's going to look like. Mm-hmm. How many did you say?
So in our 3 statewide courts, we're going to have 10 seats on the ballot in 2026, which I think is unprecedented. It's going to be a long ballot, and people are going to want to do their homework before they go to the polls. Every single one of those positions are critically important to our courts, to justice, and to our democracy.
Yeah. Well, we stand with courts. and we stand with the courts. We need the rule of law to be the fundamental thing that we believe in this country. And we seem to, I guess I'm repeating myself now, but we seem to have gotten away from that. So speaking of the Court of Criminal Appeals, there's been a fight going on statewide about who's going to get to keep their job on the Court of Criminal Appeals. And you sent me an article, I read it. Tell us what's going on there.
Well, sure. And primarily this was something I saw when I ran in 2024 that kind of surprised me, honestly. The court, again, like I said before, consists of 9 judges, and 3 of those are up every 2 years for re-election. And there were 3 judges on the ballot in 2024 from this court. And just to say, all the judges, and I'll just say this before I say this, which is I don't think criminal justice should be a partisan issue. And I don't feel that a person has to be a member of a particular party necessarily to be a good judge on this court. But stepping aside from that, the court was entirely Republican because it's a statewide office, and that has been the case for all of our statewide offices for over 30 years. So there were 3 judges who were up for re-election in 2024, and they had been part of a vote on an important separation of powers case in 2021, in which the court, based on the Texas Constitution and language that's been part of the Texas Constitution since the 1800s, decided that Attorney General Ken Paxton did not have jurisdiction or authority to prosecute election code cases without being invited in to the particular county by the local elected prosecutor. And that was not well received by Mr. Paxton, who, with his allies, they formed a PAC, and they supported challengers to the 3 Republicans who were on the ballot in 2024. They were, I would say, it's fair to say, from more of a right-wing perspective, although the judges who ran for re-election characterized themselves as conservative Republicans and were supported by interests of that nature. In any event,
and these are judges who, in the 8-1 vote.
Right, exactly.
Yes. So there was an 8-1 vote that made the decision, that came to the conclusion that the Texas Constitution did not allow him to do that.
Yes, that's right.
And all 8 of those judges were self-described Republicans.
Oh, yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so these 3 that were on the ballot in 2024 were among the 8 out of 9 who voted based on the Texas Constitution that Mr. Paxton did not have that authority without being invited in by the local prosecutor. And so they were all primaried, and they were all defeated in the primary. And it was quite a shock, I think, initially to them that they encountered these challengers, and that there was such a vigorous and well-funded opposition to them. I will say that those 3 judges had a combined total, I think, of almost 100 years of experience doing what they were doing.
Yeah, that's what the article said. 100 years between the 3 of them.
Yes, right. Very experienced judges.
Do you know how much experience the challengers had by chance? Kind of putting you on the spot.
Well,
we didn't
I
talk
don't,
about this.
but I will say that it wasn't that total. For
it
sure.
wasn't 100.
No.
It was a fraction of 100.
Yes.
We'll leave it there.
We'll leave it there for now. They definitely did not have the level of experience. Although I will say that my opponent, I was running for presiding judge in 2024. My opponent was a former justice on the Court of Appeals, so he had significantly more experience than the other 2.
Than the others, okay.
Yes, but it was shocking, and it's something that, to my knowledge, had not happened before. This court was not very politicized. The court just did its job.
Well, that's what's going on in our country right now, right? Is so many things that should not be political have been politicized. And, I guess I'm going off here a little bit, but the truth doesn't matter, right? It's just there are people in our country, starting at the top, who are saying things, and it has really nothing to do with the facts of the case. It simply has to do with what they want.
Well, I will. I'll be neutral on that point,
yeah.
but I will say that it was surprising and concerning to me because I, like I said before, I really don't think that criminal justice should be a partisan issue. What we need on this court are judges who are going to be independent and impartial, not beholden to special interests, and who will stand up for the rule of law, the Constitution, and, like you said, make decisions based on the facts. And where it's relevant and in the record, science,
Right.
in coming to their decisions. And so it is concerning to me that this has become an issue for this court specifically. But I think that it is just a microcosm of what's going on for all of our courts and in government in general right now. And it's a serious issue.
And I'll tell you what worries me. No, I say the most. I guess that a lot of things worry me, but one thing that concerns me a lot, you look at the 2016 election, you look at the 2024 election, look at the 2020 election for that matter. I think a lot of our saving grace, to the extent things were saved, is the distribution of responsibility for conducting elections. The distribution of laws to different states. And, you know, maybe not speaking to you, but to our audience, can you imagine what would happen if all of our election laws and interpretation were made by one central government? What would be happening right now? It gives me some level of comfort that the prosecution of local election fraud is distributed to the local offices. To me, that is a protection against corruption and misuse and abuse of those laws. And so when I see an effort to further centralize that based on a person who, in my judgment, is 100% partisan and not basing things on fact, my opinion, that's deeply concerning to me.
Well, my understanding is that the drafters of our Texas Constitution had similar concerns and wanted to make sure that the prosecutorial authority in criminal cases was decentralized and was based on prosecutors in local jurisdictions who were accountable to the voters of that area. I think in Texas, we love elections. We love to elect our officials, and we feel very strongly about being able to choose those officials that have power over us. And so I think that's kind of integral to our governance and our spirit here in Texas.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to say we the people, right? I mean, but it's true, right? And you know, there's a grand tradition that I think we're trying to keep this grand tradition of debating how to spread those powers out and then to put checks in place that make sure those powers don't get, that one body doesn't violate the powers of another body. You know, one thing I've done recently is, I'm in fact in the middle of doing this, is listening to the Federalist Papers.
Oh, wow.
The audiobook.
Yeah.
I'll just add, I used to listen to the news. I really can't stand to listen to the news anymore. So I found something better to do. And that's the latest thing that I'm listening to in an audiobook. And you know, and from other sources as well. This was a primary topic of debate among the drafters of the Constitution, the drafters of the Declaration of Independence, is how do you do this in a way that you don't have the tyranny of the government, but also the tyranny of the majority as well? They worried about that a lot. And man, who would have thought we'd be in 2026 wondering about this?
Well, I think it's great that you're going back and steeping yourself in that history, because it's really critical that we remember all of these lessons that we've learned in the past so that we can apply them in the present.
Yeah, indeed. You know, my dad was in World War II.
Oh, wow.
You know, yeah. So, I mean, I think about, you know, what he fought for. And I've actually gotten some criticism from extended family that I might look at what he fought for and interpret it the way that I interpret it. But I think about the sacrifices he and so many people made in that time, and I'm watching it be rolled back right now. And it is wrong and offensive to me to see that happening. Another personal comment, but it really motivates me a lot. So let's talk about fairness a little bit and come back to your work in the conviction integrity unit. And maybe you could expand a little bit on why that value is so important to you in running for this office, and and share a little bit about the outcomes that you would hope to see from the
Sure.
work that's ongoing.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, just to give an example of one of the cases that I worked on in that unit, and this is not one that I had originally prosecuted, but it was a 30-year-old conviction. A man had been in prison for over 30 years, and we received a request to investigate that case, and we investigated that case very thoroughly. And we discovered through that process that this conviction was primarily based on a written confession that this man did not write, which was not videotaped. That wasn't required at the time. It was a pretty long interrogation, which wasn't videotaped. And he had signed the written confession, and that was the primary evidence against him at trial. But he had always maintained his innocence. So we looked into it. And what we discovered is that there was another individual who had been the state's first witness at trial, who, it turns out, he had asked his girlfriend at the time to assist him in hiding a car on the night of the offense. And additional DNA testing was done, which further tied this individual to the crime. And basically all the evidence began to point to this person who had been a witness for the state rather than this other individual who had been in prison for over 30 years. And then we subsequently determined that the individual who had been the witness for the state had been accused of other very serious and not dissimilar crimes afterwards. Okay, and people who were victims had testified in our hearings. And basically, my point here is not only is it an unspeakable injustice for someone to be incarcerated for a crime they did not commit, but also that frequently leads to the fact that someone who committed the crime, not always, but frequently, someone who actually committed that crime of violence is not held accountable for it and is released into the community.
And particularly difficult to imagine that person testified against. I mean, played a role. Yeah.
So
I guess I shouldn't be shocked, should I?
So essentially, when your goal is to ensure community safety and accountability and protection for victims, if you have prosecuted the wrong person, you've achieved exactly the opposite result that you wanted, and the community is not safer. So it is sort of a double injustice, is what I would say. And that is one of the things that I found most compelling about this work and most concerning about what I was discovering through this work, where it wasn't just one case, it wasn't just two cases, there kept being more cases that we were finding. And I mean, it's not hundreds or anything like that, but any is unacceptable. And through that process and other work that I've been doing as part of my campaign, I'm seeing that there are things that are problematic in our system. Like I said, I think we have a great system, and we need to work to ensure that it works the way it's supposed to work. And to do that, I think it is really critical that we have judges who understand that the system can make mistakes, and who understand that the most critical thing is to stand up for the rule of law, to stand up for the Constitution, and to dig down and get to the true facts in these cases, which are typically in the record that's available. It takes a little more time, and it is super important. And if that happens, I think we can begin to make change. But I will say this as well. This court is at the top of the criminal justice system, and it has an administrative role. I was the rules attorney for the court. One of the things the court does is it writes rules and amends rules to make sure that the system is working the way it should. So the court can have an additional role, not only in deciding opinions in particular cases the way they need to be decided, in my opinion, fairly and consistent with the rule of law, which, by the way, sets precedent that all other courts in the state have to follow when they make a decision on an issue like this, and it's published. But also in writing those rules and ensuring that procedure in the trial courts and the appellate courts is working the way it should to ensure that justice is done.
And you can make a difference in all of this as a judge in place 9 or the Texas Criminal Court of Appeals.
Yeah, the court is so
puts you in
important.
a good place.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it would. And what I tell people when I talk about this court is, you may never have heard of this court, but it is absolutely critical to ensuring that our rights and liberties are protected.
Indeed. We had one more topic I wanted to cover, which kind of comes out of your personal background again, but it also ties to things going on in the country as well. You hosted foreign exchange students. Tell us about that. I can just tell from your reaction how much you enjoyed.
Oh, I loved it.
Doing that.
Sure.
Yeah. Go tell us about your hosting of students.
Sure. So 3 different, first of all, we have 4 kids who are now adults, young adults. And when they were in high school, for 3 separate academic years, we hosted foreign exchange students. 2 of them were from Germany and 1 was from Japan. And it was such a joy and such an incredible experience for us and for our kids. I think it was so good for them to sit at the dinner table every night with someone from another country and learn about their cultures and their traditions. And they often had different ideas about things than we did. And it was just fantastic and eye-opening for my kids to have this experience, to talk to them about it. Since then, we've continued to have a relationship with the families of some of the kids that we hosted, and we've been to Germany a couple of times and visited castles and sat at their dinner tables there. And one of the things we talked about earlier is that I actually have one of my kids is currently living and working in Japan, and has visited with her former exchange student sister. And
where is she in Japan?
So she's on a smaller island called Awaji Island, which is beautiful, has gorgeous beaches, and it's really lovely. There's some incredibly amazing shrines there, so much history. And she is teaching English to Japanese kids in elementary schools, 2 different elementary schools there, and I'm so proud of her. But I wonder if she would have followed this path had we not hosted an exchange student.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, your own willingness to do that has now led to something really cool for your daughter. That's got to be very fulfilling.
Sure, and
I would think
it is extremely fulfilling. I love that it happened, and it's really helped my kids be better global citizens, I think. And at the same time, now my daughter is teaching Japanese kids not only English, but they want to learn about Texas. So she
be careful what you ask for, right?
She one day, had to wear her cowboy hat and boots and jeans.
So I mean, you just triggered a story. I guess I have to tell it. So I, in prior job I had, I did a lot. I traveled a lot. I made 50 trips, 50 international trips. So I went to Colombia a lot, and we were wrapping up a program. And so I packed my cowboy hat and my boots and my belt buckle in my bag. And boy, when we were doing that final ceremony and I snuck into the back, put on my cowboy hat and boots and came out, you should have seen the cameras.
Oh my gosh.
come out. It was like, oh yeah, oh my goodness. And I'll be the first to admit I'm all hat, no cattle. I'm not a Texas country boy by any means. Although maybe not today's version of Texas, but if you think about the historical values of our state, shall I say? That I can.
You're behind that.
That I can believe in. Yeah,
Free spirit, and,
free spirit,
independence, and friendly.
Correct.
That's right.
Well,
Texans are friendly.
well, I love that that you said that, because I can remember as a kid, my parents were going somewhere in the state of Texas, and there were signs on the side of the road, drive friendly. And I think about that today, and I'm like, boy, it doesn't feel. The state doesn't feel friendly.
Well, some
today.
people aren't
And
driving so friendly anymore, but let's bring it back.
Let's bring it. That's right. That's absolutely right. And if there's a grander point that I wanted to make in bringing up your foreign exchange students and my travel, it's the importance of having friends of our country all over the world, as opposed to chasing friends away. And, I've spent, I spent 10 years of my life making friends all over the world. And, in many cases, people I could call on for things that I'm working on, or they could call on me for things that they're doing. And I think it just highlights the value of having friends and, dare I say, allies all over the world that make life better for all of us. So, Holly, how can people support your campaign? How do they learn more?
So we have social media, things like Facebook, Instagram, and you can find me at Holly T for Judge on all of those platforms. And I have a website, which is at hollyt4judge.com.
hollyt4judge.com. HOLLYT4FOR.
Yes.
For Judge.
Yes.
.com. Okay.
That's it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts?
I applaud you for doing a podcast to educate folks on all of these important issues. And
Thank you.
I am grateful for you inviting me to be on the podcast, but also just for the opportunity to talk to so many people all over the state. We're going to 254 counties, and I have met so many amazing people, and I've heard so much beauty in this world when people are so down.
I'm glad you helped me remember to bring that up.
Oh, yeah.
254. And by the way, everyone, I asked her if she was going to follow Beto O'Rourke's plan for visiting, and no, not necessarily.
Well, we're following our own path, and I have asked people, if you have an event you want me to come to, or you want to talk to me about a visit to your area, give me a call.
Let me repeat that. So
Okay.
Holly will be in your neighborhood, everyone. She's
right.
going to visit all 254 Texas. That's spectacular, by the way, that you're doing
thank
this.
you.
And so reach out to her. Yeah. How do people reach you then? Via your website? Is that the best way to, if they wanted to contact you?
They can actually text or call me.
Okay.
I have a cell phone number for my campaign, and it
Okay.
is 512-643-3637. It's 512-643-3637.
I see your phone ringing right now.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, what I wanted to say about that is that it's been amazing. We've been all the way down to the Rio Grande Valley and up to the Panhandle just last week. And what I am finding is that Texans, despite our differences and despite the negative energy you see online and sometimes on our highways, are still amazing people with big hearts who really care. And I've talked to all kinds of folks, not just people, I'm a Democrat, I'm not just talking to Democrats, I'm talking to everybody and listening to everybody about their concerns about what's going on right now and just their thoughts. And it's amazing to me, all the wonderful people that I've met, and it just fills me with joy.
We need more politicians like you, willing to talk to all sides and hitting the road to go to actively, not just to say that, but to actively go hear them. So Holly, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here.
Really appreciate it. And I'm going to ask our audience, did you learn anything about our democracy today? Boy, I certainly did. And I hope you did as well. A reminder that you can visit our website at speakusa.org. And I want to remind all of you to make sure you speak up for the USA. Thank you for joining us today, Holly. Really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.